Hello, my name is Melinda Chaney, and I am the lead gifted education teacher at Rocky Mount Elementary School in Marietta, Georgia. Rocky Mount is one of 66 elementary schools in Cobb County. Located in the northeast corner of the county, it is a feeder school for Lassiter High School. The purpose of this presentation is to examine data from the Georgia milestones in grades 3 through 5 for the years 2022, 2023, and 2024. We will look at both ELA and math scores and compare them to the county and state scores. Particular attention will be paid to the percentage of students scoring in the proficient and distinguished learner range. The data will be analyzed by the school data team, which is comprised of grade level representatives, special education teachers, and members of the administration. The team meets monthly to discuss student data and progress on student improvement goals. In examining the data, a concern developed over the small percentage of growth for students in the proficient and distinguished learner ranges. While the numbers were higher than the county and state, it was particularly difficult for these students to show growth. The school strategic plan was developed based on this data. Some of the questions we're going to be asking ourselves: what percentage of students are scoring the proficient or distinguished learner range of the Georgia milestones? Are students in this area showing continued growth? What instructional strategies can we use to help students continue to grow within these ranges? And how does this data relate to the SSP for the past 3 years, as well as moving forward? Here's a little bit about our school. Rocky Mount Elementary School is home of the Roadrunners. It opened in 1978. It's located in Marietta, Georgia, and is part of the Cobb County School District. It serves grades pre-K through 5 with a special needs preschool, an autism bridge class, advanced content classes in both ELA and math for grades 4 and 5, and gifted education resource classes for grades 1 through 5. A little bit about our students. Our student enrollment remains fairly consistent, which averages somewhere close to 600 students. So if you look for the past 3 years, in 21-22, there were 589 students. There's a slight decrease in 22-23 at 572, and then in 23-24 it was back up at 592. So again, it remains pretty consistent. Sometimes newer developments are coming into the area, so that it sometimes offers an increase, or sometimes there's a kindergarten class with a high population that kind of increases that. If you look at the enrollment by gender, it's almost an even split, with the males slightly higher than the females. So that's consistent across all 3 of those years. If you look at the demographics, you can see that the 2023-24 school year is in green, the 22-23 school year is in light blue, and the 21-22 school year is in dark blue. And you can see that the demographics pretty much remain pretty consistent over these 3 years. Obviously, white seems to be the predominant race or ethnicity. There's several multiracial students, Hispanic and Black students make up another minority, and as far as a fair number of Asian students. If you look at students with disability, as well as the English, and as well as the economically disadvantaged, there seemed to be a slight increase in the 2022-23 school year. Not sure exactly what would have caused that. As far as the increase in the English language learners, it could be that was the year where it looks like there's a higher percentage of Hispanic and Asian enrollment. I know we have a high number of Korean students and Spanish-speaking students, and so it could be that higher enrollment caused an increase in the English language learner. But overall, our demographics remain fairly consistent. Another area of demographics would be our advanced learning population, which we have a gifted resource class as well as advanced content classes in 4th and 5th grade. And as the gifted education teacher, these numbers are particularly important to me because I'm responsible for recording all the FTE data, which ultimately leads to allotments and funding. A steady increase that you can see in that gifted population allows for more teachers and for more opportunities for things like talents development and those advanced learning programs. So the more that we can grow that, the more that we can meet the needs of those students. Right, if you look at our staff, Rocky Mount is a beloved neighborhood school. It's described by students and staff as a family, and as a result, there's a very low turnover rate. I myself have been there full-time for 15 years. My children went to school there. Before I went back full-time, I worked as a supply teacher. Many staff members have a similar story. We like to say that once a roadrunner, you're always a roadrunner. And so you can see we have a very low turnover rate. Our certified staff ranges usually between 40 to 45 teachers. If you look at the school years, there was a slight decrease of certified staff members in the 22-23 school year, which also correlates to a lower enrollment that year. Our gender is predominantly female, as is in most elementary schools. That is the case. I think we have, I believe, anywhere between 3 and 4 male staff members on those given years. And our race and ethnicity, of our staff is predominantly white, and that has also remained consistent over that time period. Look at our years of experience. Most of our teachers fall within that 5 to 15 year range. Again, people stay here, if possible, for a long time. So those numbers increase as more teachers have more years of experience, and then we'll have some retirees, and so the 30 year might decrease. But again, a very low turnover rate, and teachers typically stay there a long period of time. All right, so we're going to be looking at the Georgia Milestones. And so the Georgia Milestones Assessment, it's a statewide summative testing program for students in grades 3 through high school. We're going to be looking at grades 3 through 5. It evaluates how well students have mastered the knowledge and skills outlined in the Georgia's state adopted content standards in language arts, math, science, and social studies. We're simply going to be looking at ELA and math. There are end of grade assessments, which is what we'll be looking at, and then there's end of course for high school. Those results can determine student readiness for the next grade level or course and contribute to accountability measures for the college and career readiness and performance index. It can also help with looking at students that might possibly need remediation or early intervention program. And it is one of the screeners for the advanced content program. You do not have to be a gifted education student to be in the advanced content program. So those milestone scores are very important for that. All right, as we start to look at the data, these are our third grade ELA scores for those past 3 years. And as you can see, consistently, Rocky Mount scores higher. We have more, not higher, but we have more students in that proficient and distinguished learner range than the county or the state. So that is something that we are wanting those students. It's difficult to try to help those students to grow. If you're in the 95th percentile, sometimes it's hard to get to the 97th percentile. So those are some of the challenges that we're facing if we look at that data. You can see there's very similar scores within the math ranges as well. Our students are scoring in that, across the board, they're scoring in that proficient and distinguished learner range. So you can see there was a slight, again, okay, here's our 4th grade scores for ELA for those same 3 years. Again, high performance in the proficient and distinguished learner range for all 3 years. Here, from the 22 to 23 school year, this distinguished learner range grew. And then there was a slight decrease in 2024. And math scores again, growing from and growing. And here are our 5th grade scores. 5th grade scores, again, they're primarily in that, the higher is in that proficient range. So we're really trying to move those proficient students into that distinguished learner range. And very similar scores for their math scores as well. All right, so in looking at all of that data and trying to identify the areas of strengths and weaknesses, we have consistent student enrollment. So we are not a transient school. We have students that are there from kindergarten through 5th grade. They are very rooted in the community. The same thing with our teachers. We have high teacher retainability, low turnover rate. So that consistency really helps to promote those areas of strength. The majority of our students are scoring in proficient and distinguished learner ranges. The issue, though, some of our weaknesses are that it's that stagnant growth in those advanced learning ranges. Some of those students are staying in that proficient range. We want to try to move them to that distinguished learner range. We feel as though we have a lot of things in place for our students that are in that beginning and developing range, as far as remediation. But it's a challenge to move a student who's already high achieving and to challenge them to work to be able to move even further, to gain that higher critical thinking and rigor in their learning. And part of that sometimes is that lack of strategies of just exactly what do we do for those students. So we came up with a few questions. We're looking at what can we do to help students in the advanced ranges demonstrate growth? What instructional strategies of professional development can we put in place to achieve this goal? And how can we promote rigor and critical thinking? And all of that went into our school strategic plan. And so for each year, for the next school year, we want to increase the percentage of students scoring in that advanced level from whatever the baseline was from the previous year, 2% higher above that baseline. So there's a lot of work to be done to get there, but we really believe that we can do it. So some of our next steps then, we're talking about having some quarterly training on promoting rigor and critical thinking with members of the Cobb County School District Advanced Learning Program. So having, it's not enough to just say, oh, give them something harder to do. Really knowing what it is, what kind of questions can we ask, what kind of thought-provoking material can we provide to help them to develop those critical thinking skills to move forward. And then on top of that, that quarterly training with the technology specialists to use technology to promote those critical thinking skills and that deeper learning. And then we're going to implement those instructional strategies from those professional development trainings, putting it into place, meeting again, and seeing how we're doing. So that when we meet next time and the next data meeting, and we can take a look and see, how did we do? If we put all these things into place, were we able to move forward? So in summary, our plan is to be able to help, to looking at the data, we're trying to help our students that are in that proficient and advanced learning area to move forward and to show even more growth. And we're going to do this by implementing strategies that we're learning from that advanced learning and critical thinking and rigor program. Thank you for listening to my presentation.